Wellbeing Show. I'm your host, Noel. We're joined by a fantastic guy who I've known for many years, Gary Denson, who I'll introduce properly shortly. I'm not actually in San Francisco, even though I've got that Golden Gate Bridge behind me. I'm over in Spain, actually, which is why I've got this thing. I'm in a hotel room, just as evidence, really, that this is a live show. We're out on the air right now. We're streaming on several platforms at the same time, which is YouTube, Facebook Live, and also on Twitter through Periscope. None of which I understand. That's on my script. I'm too old to understand that sort of stuff. I've got the techie in the background doing it for me. You can also you can join us on any one of those platforms, and my team are sort of scanning and pick up all your comments and things like that and feed them through to me. Or you can give me a call on the phone here, and the number is +44 7506 319 745. And that's +44 7506 319 745. Don't worry, my team will put the number out there. You can give us a call on WhatsApp if you like, and join in the conversation. It'd be great to hear from you. Enough of all that now. Back to Gary. Hello, Gary, joining us all the way from Australia, for goodness sake.
Yes. I was about to say good morning, Noel, but good evening or good afternoon.
Or whatever it is. Good morning to you. Yeah, what time is it over there? About 8 o'clock in the morning or something, or 9 o'clock in the morning.
Just over 8 in the morning. So
just gone 8 o'clock in the morning.
Beautiful day here in Melbourne, high clouds, and we're just coming to the end of our summer here, of course. So
yeah. So how's it been? I mean, sort of how is it with this whole pandemic thing and stuff like that? How's it been over there in Australia?
Look, we went through a challenging time mid last year in our little state of Victoria. We had 800 odd deaths, predominantly driven by an outbreak that came from our hotel quarantine system. So that was really sad. And it was, again, of that 800, most of them were elderly care patients, which was sad. But look, we're back to life normally here, fundamentally. We've got a pretty rigorous system. Even though Australia is a Commonwealth, the states have their own control under the Constitution of their healthcare systems and their borders. So our respective premiers can shut down our borders literally within a minute's notice. So we still have a little bit of that going on here and there, where the West Australians won't let the Victorians in, or the South Australians won't let the New South Welshmen in. And
that's not the pandemic, though. That's been the way it has been always, isn't it?
Well, we're pretty happy that no Queenslanders come down here. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, life's pretty normal. We, for example, when I leave to go out, and I will be doing after the show today to go into the city, then I'll wear a mask on public transport. And there's never been an issue here with the Australians committing to that. It's a mindset of, well, if that's what we've got to do to stay safe and prevent the spread, then we'll do it. Very different to an American attitude, for example, where I have my freedom of speech and freedom of act or whatever, I'll do what I like. And I hear that now they're nearing on 500,000 deaths, which is very sad.
They've passed 500,000.
Oh, they have.
Earlier last week, I think it was, they had not celebration, marking of the event.
Right.
But they've got a few more 100,000 to go. Seriously, before the end of this, it's I sort of there's a lot of things about America that I love, but there's a lot of things I don't want to have anything to do with, and the sort of extremism, the politicization of all of this stuff, and it's beyond the pale, really. It's absolutely beyond the pale. So
I have a small saying which I use with my 3 sons on occasions. I said, look, it's fine to be confident, because you need to be confident and have self-belief and to get through life and to be successful in whatever you're pursuing. And it's okay to be ignorant, because sometimes you don't know what needs to be known. You're not aware of it, or you haven't been educated around that. But when you combine confidence and ignorance, then in my view, that becomes arrogant. And an arrogant mindset is can be a dangerous thing in any situation. And without pigeonholing all of America, but I think there's certainly a strong crossover of their inherent confidence and a degree of ignorance around the how severe this virus is and how best to deal with it.
I mean, I think it's interesting. It's also about communitarian spirit, isn't it? I mean, I remember right at the beginning of the pandemic, not a lot, but there were a number of people who were saying things like, well, you know, it's only a small percentage of people who are going to die, and they're going to die in a couple of years anyway, so why would we be worried? And I thought, oh, that's a really odd attitude to have. I mean, it sort of really is putting human life at the bottom of the pile, whereas for me, I put it at the top of the pile. And those 2 years are important to that person and the people who love them, and they're important to me. Sort of, it's one of the things that separates us. It's interesting thinking about it anthropologically. The reason why, how we know when human culture began, oddly enough, is when burial procedures started happening. So when you saw people digging graves and marking those graves, that's when anthropologists say is the beginning of human culture. That's what makes us very different,
right?
Because we experience loss. So we have attachments too, and those when those attachments are broken through death, we go through a grieving and mourning period, and that's, you know, it's one of the oldest human experiences. And when you're in denial of that, something weird has happened in terms of whether you're still, are you really fully part of the human race if you're sort of,
yes, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like something
Absolutely.
very odd and very strange has happened. And you know, it's like we're not a herd of wildebeest, and one gets cut out of the herd by a lion, and we just all carry on going. That's not what it is to be a human being, you know. So, and it's just
sorry, or if one of the wildebeest stumbles and falls, we as humans don't just keep tracking on. You know, we stop and
that's right.
seek to assist, and so it's a great example, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that is what it is to be human, you know. And I sometimes say when I'm working with some patients and sort of they get into this, what we call solipsistic thinking, cut off and sort of depressed thinking, I go, well, what's this? What is that? And they go, it's a phone. And I say, well, it's not. What this is a complex set of human relationships, because that's what creates this. Not knowledge up here, not opposable thumbs, not cleverness. It's the fact that as human beings, we can organize and support and live together in really, really complex ways. And this is just a byproduct. This phone is just a byproduct of that. Byproduct of the fact that, you know, at the core of us is this social experience, which is sort of deeply embedded in us. And it's like insane to try and get rid of that, is because everything breaks down. And I tell you one of the things that, because I remember right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I can come back to you in a minute, I'll just go on for a little bit. Sorry, you're the guest, not me. But I remember sort of re-watching some of those films on Netflix about various natural disasters and pandemics happening and stuff like that, and all the predictions of how human society would go. And, you know, without fail, they all sort of suggested that what was going to happen was, when faced with the existential crisis, the zombie apocalypse, that what would happen is we'd all fall apart, start eating each other and killing each other and stuff like that. And actually the opposite happened, which is what we've known as, in psychology, we've known forever would be the truth, that we banded together much more. Because that's what we do when we are faced with existential threats, is that we reach out, connect to each other. And I remember right at the beginning of the pandemic doing things like, everybody did this. We're all a little bit embarrassed by it. Sort of, I phoned people I hadn't spoken to in 10 years just to see if they were all right.
Yeah, exactly.
We all did it, right? It's like, just phoning, and they were like, it's okay, I know, I've done it myself. And it was like, and then all these helpful groups emerged, all these connections with people, and people offering to do shopping and things like that. And we didn't start eating each other. we started helping each other.
Yeah.
Apart from in America, where they started shooting. Sorry, that's
we had. I don't know if it made it into the British media, but this time last year we had some of the worst bushfires in history.
Yes, it did make it.
Hundreds and hundreds of towns. Excuse me.
Yeah. Do you need to get yourself some water, Gary?
No, I'm good. It's just a frog in my throat, and he crossed his legs. And hundreds and hundreds of houses and properties lost, and wildlife lost, and human life lost. And to your point, what came from that was the community that banded together to rebuild and to help each other. And the nature of bushfires is that when it gets to a firestorm level, it can destroy my house but go straight past yours, and the houses are literally next to each other. And so you're dealing with, well, how come mine was raised and yours wasn't? So it's an interesting part of humanity.
Absolutely. I mean, it's sort of, I think it's shown the best of humanity, and the next phase now is already people are talking about how we vaccinate the rest of the world. So the rich nations know they can do it, and now we've got to sort out the rest of the world as well. And I saw today, there was a news article on the first batch of vaccines from COVAX, which is the international effort around vaccinations, have landed in, I think it was in Ghana. It was in Ghana. So 600,000 vaccinations have landed in Ghana today. The start of, and sort of, I'm going to, maybe be a little bit jingoistic here. I don't know if it's jingoistic, but the vaccine was the Oxford AstraZeneca one, which is basically the one that's going to save the world because it's so cheap and it can be stored in a normal fridge.
Right. Yeah.
And that was why they designed it that way, so that it could be used internationally. And despite the Germans getting a little bit pissed off with us, so probably a bit of Brexit going on, It's like, don't use the Oxford vaccine, it's from Britain. But I sort of, and then hearing Bojo, who deserves some of the stick he gets, deserves most of the stick he gets, but he has made very clear that we've got 4 times as much vaccine ordered in the UK than we need. And he said that's all going to COVAX. We don't need it. So the 3 times that we don't need can go to the rest of the world, which I think is absolutely right. So again, I think that is a good example of people banding together and supporting each other. I want to come back to you because I know that there's been a particular sort of edge to all of this for you, in the sense of what you've been going through in terms of your own personal micro experience. Before we get into that, I might give a little background on how we met, and then talk about some of that stuff and cover some of that stuff and cover something about you as a person, if that's all right, and where you come from and how you got to this place. So we met, I think it was 4 years ago. Was it 5 years ago? I can't remember. It was
let me think. No, it would have been May 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago. Blimey.
Three.
It feels longer. It's just this pandemic the pandemic in the meantime. So it was in conference, wasn't it, in London? ICAD, I think it was called.
That's it.
And and I met you for a coffee, and I was always a bit wary of those types of conferences because they're all, they're sort of business blurby things that when people press hands and do dodgy deals, and I'm not very good at that sort of stuff. But I do remember when I met you, rather arrogantly thinking, "Oh, this guy's actually all right." It's sort of like, I thought he's all right actually, and I sort of remember having a really good conversation about you. But that was a sort of an addiction treatment.
I've spent my whole career trying to get someone to say that, and I'm proud that I've achieved it.
Oh no, it's just arrogance on my part, making judgments about people. But you know what it's like on that conference junket
Yeah,
circuit. You get to
sure.
meet so many people, and you know, 90% of the people you get to meet are pretty forgettable, and I'm sure I am to most people, totally forgettable as well. So, but you stood out, I think, for me, and you stood out for a number of reasons. One, just because of how you are and who you are as a person, but also because of your route into the industry was very different to a lot of other people. And this, I should say, was a conference showcasing overpriced rehabs around the world, and quite a few of them that weren't very good anyway. And you stood out as quite unique in some ways, in that you didn't come the traditional route, which was discovering that rehabs are a gravy train and deciding to sort of stick your snout in the trough and suck up as much of the gravy as possible. You actually came a different route. How did you get into that sort of, what was your routine? What's the sort of experience of getting to there?
Yeah, there are two parts to it. One is, sadly, my only and younger brother is a dysfunctional alcoholic.
Yeah.
And that's presented enormous challenges to my mother. Our father passed away 7 or 8 years ago. And to the siblings as we try and best manage that. But it's proven to be at times beyond our capabilities and frankly at times our understanding. So the other side to how I ended up in the business was my career was very much around, whilst in financial services, it was very much around transformation and taking a company that may have had a reasonably strong brand at some point, but they hadn't advanced and hadn't innovated and hadn't made changes to remain competitive. And so they were in critical need of transformation. And so my forte became how to transform a company into becoming a success story.
Yeah.
And I was here in Melbourne, Australia, and I got a call from I was running my consultancy, and I got a call from a recruitment agency, and they said, listen, there's a drug and alcohol rehabilitation business up in northern Thailand, and it's had previous success, but now it's really struggling. Would you be interested in trying to turn that around? And that was the and I said that would be interesting, and not from my background. So I thought, what a fascinating exercise it would be. But the fundamentals in business, as far as I'm concerned, are always the same, that you have to focus on. The only difference here was that I immediately made a strong point that it was client care was the number one priority. And I quickly came to learn that because it hadn't been the number one priority in the business, that in fact was creating the problem of the business not being successful. But the directors and existing senior staff couldn't see that. So it required a bit of a clean out, literally, and a change of mindset and culture, first and foremost.
I mean, I think it's odd to say this maybe to people who are not part of the industry. I don't really think of myself as part of the industry. I try and keep some distance between me and the industry, it's truth to be known. But I guess most people assume that two things are incorrect. One, that it's very much ethical, client, patient driven. And secondly, that people know what they're doing. And both assumptions are really dangerous ones to make when it comes to that industry. And I think that was one of the things that struck me about you. So you were down to earth, just somebody who was talking, but you clearly were very ethical and had a very ethical and understood the priority was patient care, and there was no question about it that that's what came first. But also you knew about business and how to run a business, and you came across as somebody who's confident and knowledgeable, and therefore could create a business model that would work. that you didn't need to compromise patient care to get the business. You could make the business model work around the patient care. And it's been one of my criticisms of the industry for many, many years, is that people's business models are sloppy, and that then leads to panic, and the need to ram beds, don't give a shit about anything else. Because they're caught up in that sort of vicious cycle of panic, fill the beds, doesn't matter how you do it, I don't care, just get them in there. And because the business models are basically incompetent, and the business people are basically incompetent.
And you're 100% right, Noel. And the issue is, of course, is if you don't have a strategy as to how you want to be seen, perceived, how you want to become aware, then, and this is something I drove strongly into my senior team there, is we must move away from being reactive, and we must be responsive. And some would say, well, what's the difference? Well, one is quite simply, if I was to slap someone across the face, a reaction would be to punch me in the nose. Another response might be to embrace me and say, clearly things aren't well at the moment for you to strike out like that. How can I help you? And that may be difficult because your face is smarting from the slap, but
exactly.
That's
right. That's right.
That's an example of not just reacting. And that's what I found, was that there was significant reaction, which led to your point, there's an urgency, or we're in a crisis and we need to do this. And that leads to compromising quality. And I think, whilst it's a bit cliched, is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's really relevant here because I have 3 sons. They're all adults now. I have an alcoholic brother, and it was very easy for me to say, well, how would I feel if this was my child or my brother in treatment?
Right.
And in fact, I had staff that would say to me, there's no way known I would send my family here, which is a terrible indictment of the company that you're working for and supposedly representing its brand, regardless of the functional role that you're fulfilling. So I think that was the thing that stuck out, and I came up with the tag that it was money grabbing, and I think that shocked a lot of people at that conference when I spoke out at we had on the final morning, we had a coffee and croissant morning where it was a open discussion opportunity, and I just spoke up and said, look,
you took the opportunity to be open.
I just said, look, I've only been in this game for 4 months, but I think you're all a pack of money grabbers. And
great.
And talk about getting a presence or an awareness. But it was the good thing was that after that, I was approached maybe by a dozen people who said, that is so refreshing. And that, you being one, that told me very quickly, who are the people who are truly engaged with the welfare of helping people who've found themselves upon hard times for whatever reason. And those that had struck upon a segment in an industry, within a market, and were thinking, wow, there's some quick money to be made here. One of the first examples of the business I went into, and the practices or the behaviors or the mindset, and it sounds like in some ways when I relate this story, people laugh, but it's very sad. But I'll quickly cover that. Is we had a small hospital connected to the facility, and we're able to take people through detox, etc., prior to taking them into treatment. And one day the head doctor there came to me and he said, "Oh, look, we've just got a little bit of an outbreak of sexually transmitted disease. And I said, what do you mean an outbreak? And with whom? And he said, oh, well, for the last 5 days, and there's a red flag. It took 5 days before he came to me. The last 5 days, each day we've had a different male client turn up with the same affliction. And we've traced it back to this young female client. And I've gone, oh my gosh, you know, this is terrible. So it turns out
yeah, it's real head in hand stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it turns out that the young lady was still somewhat disaffected or affected, and was offering services, if you like, to some of the male clients. My immediate thoughts went to the poor girl, that she's in this situation. And I then reported upline to my board of directors, and one board of directors says, oh, don't worry about it. It's been happening for years. You know, it's just part of the industry, you know, that when people are in treatment, they look to act out. And the other one said, oh, well, if I'd been locked up for 6 weeks, I'd probably be up for a bit of humpy pumpy too. And I went, oh my God, what am I dealing with here? Because first and foremost, this is not putting your daughter into solid care, that, you know, that you should be keeping an eye on these things. And secondly, from a commercial perspective, if the young lady wanted all of a sudden to say, well, I didn't consent to this, that, you know, I was effectively raped or taken, then your business is shut down overnight, because you don't really recover from those types of things. And that was a classic example, and an early example of the lack of care and the dismissiveness that can be pervasive in this industry. From that, I then started to create lockdown villages. So we had the female village, we had the male village, we had the LGBTQ village, we had the young 18 to 25-year-old males village. And so it meant that the free roaming across 120 different cabins, and each client had their own cabin, was prevented. And the benefits that came from that was that they then were able to more effectively focus on the treatment and the learnings that they were given, that they didn't literally have these distractions. So that's just one example of many of an operation within an industry that didn't have the client's well-being top of mind.
And I think it's an interesting example, because I remember talking to you about the model of care at that place, and for some reason you listened to me. I thought that was a bit silly on your part to actually have a conversation and take me seriously. It was a bit dumb, but there you go. It was nice for my ego. But I remember talking about that village concept, or these areas that you had, and how interesting that was clinically, because then you had the possibility of controlled mixing, and in the same way that you have in the real world. For me, it was a really interesting idea that a residential facility had this possibility of recreating this wider cultural experience, you know, and allowing safe cross-fertilization, so people could have their individual groups that they identified with, learn some of the basic skills, and then test them out in the wider group in a safe context. And it was like I hadn't realized it'd come from that story, because I don't think you told me that at the point, but it's interesting that it did. And it's an interesting, I think it highlights something about your skills and qualities, was hang on, we got to sort out this risk stuff. We can't have this happening to patients. This is wrong. Let's sort that out. But also let's transform it. Let's use the opportunity to transform it into something that's interesting and clinically worthwhile, rather than a panicked response. That difference between reaction and response. That, let's think about it and see what we do with this. And then you came up with this, what I thought was a really innovative and interesting model of inpatient treatment, which was less institutionalizing.
Yeah, and to your point, it wasn't a complete lockdown of sexes, if you like. We still had excursions, and every Friday night we had a community event where the clients could perform, or you know, whatever the theme was for the night.
Yeah.
And that's where they could then step back into some normal societal behaviours if they were ready to do that. And of course, the client, the staff were there to observe if there wasn't normal behaviour being shown, and they'd pick up on that.
Yeah.
And then when it's back into the treatment, then there's some. I hate customization when we're talking about people's welfare, but there's some refinement of how the message that needs to go to this young lady or this young man or whomever, that, hey, you know, that's where that started to get you into some trouble previously.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer the term personalisation, and personalised, because that's what it's about: personal care and personal, sort of using well-known sort of clinical models, and then you personalise it individually. And hopefully, what you do is you talk to that person. Now, the interesting thing as well is thinking about the conversation you had with the board and the rationalisations that they came up with, because you know, yes, there is a sense in which somebody comes in with dysfunctional behaviour, and you sort of know that, and you should be putting in place risk management plans that stop that dysfunctional behaviour, because that's why they're coming to you in the first place. So if you're not, it's like a real indictment of lack of care, because it's totally predictable that this is going to happen unless you do something about it. Absolutely. It's not a surprise to any of us. Like, it's not a surprise if somebody goes to an addiction rehab. It's not a surprise if somebody tries to get drugs. Of course, it's not a surprise if somebody tries to get alcohol. Of course, that's what they're going to do. And you have systems in place to manage that, you know, whatever those systems are. It's ridiculous that people don't have systems in place for what is totally predictable. But it was, I mean, it was a really interesting, or it was becoming a really interesting project, which in the end was destroyed by a problem that is pervasive in addiction treatment, which is money.
So I sadly, I only literally, I use the term lasted. It turned out to be 18 months because it within that 18 months, I was able to, I came to the realization that being undermined or overridden, not being able to, as the CEO, to be able to fulfill my vision and execute the strategies that I believed and was showing to be successful. When I got there, we had, I think, 31 clients. When I left, we had 82 per month. So something was going in the right direction. And it got to the point where, for one's own sanity and for one's reputation, that you don't want that to be besmirched by some decisions or behaviours of the board or the owners, effectively. So, look, the great thing out of the village model was something which I hadn't given a lot of thought to, but the impact it had on the team culture and the team engagement was significant, because for the first time, when I said to them, this is what I'd like to do, I said to them, you're going to have to come up with a program that works within this. And so we ended up with the female program and the male program, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden, the senior counsellors were empowered, and they hadn't been empowered before. So the consequence of that, or an outcome of that, was that they ended up delivering even better treatment services. And they felt better about that, because I fervently believe if you're in this industry as a clinical specialist, you are heavily committed to the recovery and the welfare of the clients. Otherwise, you wouldn't last, right?
Yeah.
So that was another lift that came into the business, and they were able to take it where they wanted clinically, because I don't have the background. And my objective was to be able to provide them with the resources of people, time, and money to be able to deliver their vision, and that was significant.
Yeah, and I know, as I've told you, I've got a couple of your ex-clinicians part of my company at the moment, and thanks for training them up for me, because they're great. So they've come in, they're doing a great job for me, and that's thanks to you. So thanks very much. And partly because that whole thing. What's interesting, I think, what we're talking about are cultures, aren't they? And there's something about like how individuals can carry a culture, and I think you carry a certain type of culture with you that's very much about who you are as a person, and you're skilled enough to be able to let that feed out into the world. You don't just hold on to it, you can bring people into that, and I saw you doing that with a whole bunch of people, and it was sort of, there were a lot of really good people were gravitated towards you, even though it was sort of, right, well, I suppose, you know, some people would think Thailand would be great. It wouldn't be my choice because I'm Irish and it's far too hot. But I need a bit of snow every now and then, just to feel comfortable like a husky, I suppose. And but a lot of really top quality people gravitated out there because it was beginning to become this place that was getting a name for doing something very interesting and doing something very ethical, and it was literally everything you'd said was working. If you become a center of excellence, people will come, and you don't need to worry about it. But it's, you've got a good project. It's then simply about making sure that people hear about it, and you know, you had very skilled people making sure people did hear about it, and it was working. And it was interesting that was sabotaged. Now, it would be easy to say it was sabotaged just simply by personalities, and you know, in a sense, it was personalities that sabotaged it, but they were reflective of a broader culture in that industry. And they weren't just individuals. There's a lot of them around, and they're in a lot of different countries and a lot of different places, and they're very much of a type, actually. You know, and so it wasn't just those individuals. There's something about it was much broader cultural expectation. The only way I could think of it was like this, Gary. I remember sort of right at the beginning of my clinical career, which is when dinosaurs still roamed the earth, was when I first started. So I had a good mate who was a pterodactyl. And I worked a lot in those early days, in my early days. We were in the UK at that point, where there was a thing called community care was just coming in, and we were closing long stay institutions, and these would be institutions people would stay most of their life in, decades, etc. They were in the process of closing down, moving people into their own homes, back in their original communities with support services and stuff like that. Now, 95% of the people who moved out of those institutions, it was a fantastic move, and so much better. It was a small cadre, 5%, who had very complex needs, which it wasn't so successful for, and we've had to sort of backtrack on that small group of people. But there I was, and I remember this fascinating experience. There's a hospital called Gogarburn, which is just on the edge of Edinburgh. It's now the headquarters of a bank, the Royal Bank of Scotland, I think. But at that point, it was the site of a long stay hospital. And I remember there was something about, you know, this thing you said about people come into an industry, particularly if they spend a lot of time training in it and they're really committed to it and they want to do some good. And I saw a lot of people like that, but that was warped somehow by the culture of the institution, and it got bent out of shape. And I remember it was a really fascinating experience. I remember it was virtually the last busload of patients being taken to their community home. The team I was part of was working with the more complex cases, the people who presented more challenges. And so they invited people like me who presents more challenges to work on it, so I could identify with them, really. And I remember a group of nurses and various other clinicians that had spent generations working in this hospital, literally as the last bus was going, saying they're not going to close it. They're going to keep it open. And we're like,
No.
are we in the same reality here? Because I'm watching this final busload of patients and you're saying it's not going to close. And that level of denial, that embedding in our way of doing things is the right way of doing things, even though this reality was right there. And it seems to me there's something like that goes on. I don't know what you think about that, but there's something like that goes on in the addiction treatment industry.
Yeah, I think, look, my experience, I would put that down to, well, again, arrogance, confident about what you're doing, but ignorant about the realities of the situation. And so you're presenting yourself to being arrogant to changes that are required or situation that needs to be played out. The other part I always saw, Noel, was, and going back to the story about the lady and the 5 guys, is the dismissive responses I got was, well, it's been happening for years, and I wouldn't mind a bit of humpy-pumpy myself. And that also speaks to, it's just too hard, and it's easier just to literally dismiss it with humor or attempted humor, or dismiss it as the norm, and therefore you don't have to invest time thinking, people, money, fixing, changing, improving. So dismiss it, and it's dealt with. And I think that's what I picked up was a very sad common thread through the industry, because
I get that.
As I say, there is a cowboy element to it, and not disparaging true cowboys, but that, you know, the common interpretation of that is that it's in for the quick take, and to move on. You know, they're not there for the long run. They're not there for the client welfare. It's purely a quick take of a cash grab and move on to the next opportunity.
It's interesting. Just before the pandemic, I think it was the end of the year before the pandemic, so not last year, but the year before, around about November. Baroness Black, who's a baroness by the name of Black in the UK, had been commissioned to do a review of addiction services in the UK, and it's a very interesting report, actually, a very informative, very informed report. And of course, sort of the UK is very much a mixed model. So most of addiction services are through local authorities, actually fund them, and they bring in often private sector partners to work with them, but through community settings. So drug and alcohol teams, they're called DATs. And then you have the NHS does some complex work, some detox and things like that. And then there's another group who are what we euphemistically call the independent sector, private sector providers. And the independent sector, you know, apart from small companies like mine, are mostly model themselves on the US model of inpatient treatment, keep them in for as long as possible, and use a cookie cutter.
Yes.
Stamp, get them in quick as possible, stamp them. All right, they look the right shape, get rid of them. It's that sort of model. But one of the really interesting things, I think, talks to a point that you've just said about the lack of competence, you know, the cowboys, is that she said very clearly that one of the biggest problems that was happening in addiction treatment was the dumbing down of services. And this was an independent report that had really identified that over the last 10 years, the quality of clinical interventions had gone down and down and down and down and down. And it wasn't just about lack of resourcing and financing, because of course, you know, the independent sector aren't dependent on government money. But it was, and this sort of, I suppose, thinking about things like these so-called recovery coaches and interventionists and all these professions that I don't really understand why they exist, because they're not clinical qualifications. They're not the type of people that you're talking about that have spent some time, their own time and money investing in clinical qualifications, are accountable, but also they're not the sort of people who can challenge an abusive culture. And again, thinking about my experience at Gogarburn, the whole thing about culture is this: the culture of a system, is that the people who convert to that culture the quickest and most thoroughly are the people who are not able to stand up to, because they don't have the qualifications. They are not encultured into another way of being, which might be more ethical and more thoughtful, etc., etc. And the more you bring in that type of person into an industry, the more that the abusive culture is bought into, and you don't have people. So, for example, I'm regulated by a statutory body, and I have a legal duty to put the interests of my patient first, no matter what. No employer can force me to do things I think are unethical.
Sure.
That could be the NHS. I used to work for the NHS for years, but I was always legally responsible for any decisions I make. So there's a saying in health services: it's not the person who prescribes, it's the person who administers that is responsible. So it doesn't matter if a doctor tells you this is what you have to do. If you're administering it, you have to make an individual ethical decision. And it's the same in the army, for example. If soldiers cannot take illegal orders, it's not possible for a soldier to say. But people who are not qualified don't get that.
No.
And they don't have the capacity to stand up to it. And that was why I found it really interesting meeting you, because you'd come from a different culture where it was healthier, quite clearly healthier, and you brought that health with you. And you did stand out because of that. And it was really, really interesting. Enough of that. I want to come to you, if that's all right.
Sure.
Sort of memory lane, and what I sort of referred to earlier, unless you've got something you really want to say about that experience, but we okay to move on?
No.
Yeah,
okay.
We're good. So I said that there was a particular sensitivity that you had around the virus and the pandemic, and that's because you were diagnosed with cancer some time ago, weren't you? And so you were at high risk in some ways when the pandemic. When was your diagnosis, Gary?
Diagnosis was late November 2019, so 15 months ago. It came completely out of the blue. I've always tried to keep relatively fit and was an ex-Aussie rules footballer, and enjoyed swimming in my latter years, because after 14 knee operations from playing football, I could no longer run. So living and working hard, but living an active lifestyle. One morning I woke up and found a small jelly bean sized lump on my upper left chest between my ribs. And so I was like, gee, that's odd. Lumps aren't supposed to be there. So I went to the GP the next morning. This is when I was living in Singapore. And went to the GP, and he said, don't worry about it. And I said, well, if there's nothing to worry about, then let's just take it out, because lumps aren't supposed to be there. And he said, well, let's get a scan or an X-ray and whatever. And I did that. And again, he said, look, don't worry about it. And I said again, well, if there's nothing to worry about, let's get it taken out. Recommend me a surgeon, please. I went to the surgeon, and he had his own little laptop ultrasound unit, and he checked me. He said I wouldn't worry about it. And I said, well, let's take it out. Do it now. Put the jungle juice into me and just take it out. It's a jelly bean sized lump. He said, no, we'll go into a day procedure, and we'll go into the hospital, and we'll do it. It'll only take 30, 40 minutes. 2.5 hours later, I came out, and it was around about the size of a small lemon. So
wow.
The jelly bean size bump or lump was literally the tip of the iceberg.
Mm.
And within 2 weeks, the pathology had shown that this was a melanoma cancer.
Yeah.
And running simultaneously to this, I had been having severe abdominal pain attacks, which I was hopeful that it wasn't related, but it transpired it was. So the initial, after I'd have these abdominal attacks, I'd take myself to hospital and they'd admit me for the night and, oh, you've got kidney stones. And the next one, oh, you've got gallstones. But as I was having the pathology or waiting on the pathology, and that came back and it said you have melanoma cancer, they said it has already metastasized onto your adrenal glands, which are the little triangular glands on top of your kidneys. And the growths there were both about the size of a tennis ball. So I'd gone.
And the worrying thing about when it goes into glands is it's then circulatory, and that's sort of
exactly. Yeah. So the word is metastasized. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'd gone from finding a little lump to stage 4 cancer within a month, basically.
Wow.
And I've been on a journey fighting that ever since. Last year was particularly difficult. I was given 90 days to live in September. And so I've made that.
I'm sorry, my brain is trying to compute that.
Yeah. So
what
I ended
the hell
up
is that like, Gary? When
Yeah.
you say to you got 3 months left to live, I mean, it's like, I mean, you're saying it in a very Australian rules football way. Oh yeah, I was told I was going to die next week, and that was it. And then I went out for it. I mean, it's like, what was that like, Ben? Seriously.
Yeah, it was very confronting, and my lovely wife Kerry, what had ended up happening, I had 7 growths, one behind my left eye, one on my spine, 2 on my adrenal glands, 3 on my gallbladder. I'll get these numbers to add up. 2 on my small intestine, and some spots on my lungs, but they hadn't developed to any sufficient size. But it became that the small intestine had effectively telescoped in on itself because the growths became so large, and my bowel was blocked. So standing almost 6'4", and then I was weighing about 97 kilos. By the time I went into hospital, I was 78 kilos.
Get out of here. Wow.
No, because I hadn't been able to eat, hold anything down, because the body was saying, stop putting stuff in here because I can't
process it, you dick. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Get it out. So, and unfortunately, the medical advice at the time was take more painkillers. So I ended up on so many painkillers. I think I'm trying to OxyContin, is it?
Yeah. Whoa, that's sort of
and I was on about
happy
240 milligrams a day, and I think you're supposed to be on about 20 because the pain was severe. But and I was literally like a zombie. No, I couldn't walk. I had to get my wife Kerry to lift me up from a chair to help me to go to the bathroom or whatever. I remember sitting there one day and I said, "Listen, darling, can you get stop the cat from racing around the apartment, and it's making too much noise and I can't rest?" And she goes, yes, darling. Well, we don't have a cat." So I was hallucinating.
Yes.
I was so heavily doped up on painkillers. And then I remember I said to her, and look, that guy over there looks like Johnny Cash. He's all dressed in black. Why is he always, he doesn't say anything, but he's always in the corner of a room, wherever I am, you know.
And with that big scythe looking thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I went in for emergency surgery and they said, look, you may not come out of it. So Kerry and I said our farewells, and I spoke to my sons, and then I got through the surgery, and that's when they said, look, you might have 90 days ahead of you. So you can go home and suck on crushed ice, or, you know, we can try and take this on. And I said, well, I'll throw the dice. I'll try and take it on. So, yeah, and I'm glad, clearly I'm glad, what an understatement. We have a rather nice view of Melbourne from our balcony, but, you know, it's
you didn't just, I mean, it's like, yeah, classic understatement. You didn't just take it on. You did something else as well, didn't you? And you did something really quite extraordinary. So tell us about that. What did you, apart from taking on this death sentence and winning, which is not bad going, Gary. So well done on that, mate.
Thank you.
That was
Thank you.
not bad at all. You did something else on top of that as well. So tell us about what you did.
I suppose right from the outset, Kerry and I, from when I was first diagnosed, I said we're going to live as normal a life as possible. And that meant going to work every day as long as I could, but that became problematic around about February last year, when we were still in Singapore, and at times I couldn't talk because of the treatment. I was on immunology treatment. There were stages where I couldn't walk. I had severe reactions to the treatment at different stages. So it became problematic, and hence why I resigned and came home to Melbourne. And COVID was just starting to take off. So that was part of the reason. So the approach was very much be as normal as possible, but stay as active as possible. And that meant getting up every morning and getting on with a routine, not literally, you know, not pulling the doona over my head and saying, this is terrible. I very quickly came up with a mantra. And initially it was, I can beat this. And I swim every day. I swim 1 kilometre every day. And I was back then, and post surgeries, I've had 2 surgeries in the last 6 months. I get back into the pool as soon as the scars have healed appropriately and enough. And my mantra has now become, I will beat this. And because when I was swimming, I was thinking, can maybe is just not strong enough. Will is more decisive. So, and so I walk as up to probably about 8 kilometres a day, depending on the day. Recently, I was walking with Kerry, and I nearly collapsed, and it turned out that my blood count was near, red platelet blood count was near 0, and I could hardly breathe. And so into hospital, get a couple of bags of iron pumped into me, and I bounced back after about a week. So, but that was really my approach: stay physically fit as I'm able, because I strongly believe that enables you to be mentally fit and mentally strong. If you're incapacitated, it's very easy, from my experience, to fall into a mental bad place.
Absolutely.
But if you're capable and if you're doing things, then there's hope, right? When you can't do things, then it's easy to feel like there's no hope. So for me, it was to be capable, to remain as capable as possible. So.
Activity is really good. I mean, physical activity is really good for the brain, for sort of wellness, well-being, etc. You know, it will sort of encourage people to do that, even if people feel very depressed and can't see the point of it. Just get up and do it. It will lift your mood. It will. The brain is designed for movement. That's why we've got such large brains, basically. And then on top of defeating this and getting through all of this, you also decided that maybe you set up a fundraiser as well, I heard, or something like that.
No, I was sitting in hospital after the surgery. They took out about 80-90 centimeters of my small intestine. And it was 3 a.m.
One way of losing weight, Gary, but a quite extreme way of doing it. I suggest just a little bit of exercise and a healthy diet might be better.
Yeah, exactly. And I was lying in bed, and 3 a.m. in the morning thinking, gee, I'm still alive. I didn't expect it.
That's right.
Because they said that in the surgery.
Love it. That's right. Only somebody who's been given a death sentence can have a
Yeah.
statement like that. Oh, I'm still alive. That's interesting.
They said you may not wake up. And so when I woke up, I thought, wow, this is a plus. And so seriously, I sat there and thought, right, I've got to give something back to this hospital. And the surgeons were amazing, and the nurses and all the care were wonderful. And if I've only got 90 days, then I'm going to do something with that. And so I decided to try and raise 90,000 Australian dollars in 90 days.
Yeah.
And I approached the hospital, and they put me onto the foundation, which is around the charitable side of the hospital. And they were fascinated that this guy on his sickbed is wanting to have meetings and get this organised.
And start running and transforming the hospital, because you do. While I'm here, I'll just transform your business model.
And so they were great. They got onto it, and we ended up creating the website, and away we go. So long story short, I think it was 25 days I exceeded the $90,000 target. And the last count, I was chatting to them yesterday, and the last count is now, I'll put it in British pounds. It's just around 230,000 British pounds, which is
awesome.
400,000 Aussie dollars that we've raised. And what that's going towards is critically awareness, but also the research around the immunology treatment. So I haven't had chemo, I haven't had radiation. This is an immunology treatment science that appears can work with melanoma. So I'm not out of the woods. I've got another 2 growths that have popped up in the last month. So I don't know what my prognosis is, but I feel good, I feel strong. And
just for people who don't know, the immunology is the new way of treating. It's vaccination. It's this brand new vaccination stuff. So all the COVID vaccines are based upon this stuff, and they're working on these types of vaccines and immunology processes to defeat cancer. Next year, the Oxford group that produced one of the COVID vaccines think they'll have a vaccine or immunology treatment for malaria, and so malaria will be gone.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's like extraordinary stuff, and the connections between all these things is extraordinary.
Well,
I just
no,
go.
I was just going to say the medical science has fascinated me, and very, very quickly, it's the objective of the immunology treatment is to activate one's immune system to identify the cancer as being a threat. And the challenge with that is the cancer clearly has the same DNA as the rest of me.
Exactly.
And so what happens is it ends up as a handshake. So the cancer starts to grow. The body's immune system says, well, you're a little bit different, but you're still part of me. So I'm just going to let you get on with it. And so the body doesn't attack it. And so the immunology treatment hopes to heighten your immune system to a sufficient degree where the immune system goes, okay, look, I now see that you're my second cousin, but you're a bit of a prick. You sleep on the couch.
And you're inbred.
You've drunk all my beers, and you keep chasing around, kicking the cat around the. So whilst you're part of the family, we want you out. And
that's right. Yeah, it's a great way of saying it. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
And
it's exactly the same with this sort of COVID. What they've done is the COVID vaccine. They've just identified one aspect of the virus, which is the spikes.
Right.
The spike proteins, and then you have an immune response based upon that, and it's programming the body's natural defense systems to be able to identify the threat effectively, because viruses are brilliant at hiding themselves, and so are cancers are brilliant at hiding themselves. So they are part of the body. That's the whole point. So it's extraordinary stuff. I mean, it absolutely is. we're coming to the end, and there's a few things I want to do. One is I want to make sure that we get people to know your consultancy. So what's the website, and we'll get that out for your consultancy?
Oh, thank you. gwdassociates.com.
GWS.com, okay. And the website,
gwdassociates.com.
yeah,
Yep.
don't worry, we'll put a link for you.
Okay.
And then website for the fundraising, I presume that's still going.
It is, yep. And it'll take international donations. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good. So what's that then? Give us that.
Yeah, so it's Alfred-fundraising.
Yeah.
.Raisley, RAISLEY.
Yeah.
.com.
Yeah.
And /90K in 90 days, Gary Denson.
Great. That'll go out, and then you can just double check that we get that right. So don't worry about that. One other thing is that on a very personal level, there's you've always been, I mean, somebody I admire a lot and I like, and I've really enjoyed your company. You've also tolerated me when I do dumb things like write articles that people think I'm writing about you, and I'm not. And I had no idea, and you've always been very kind about that, and also very respectful of the fact that people should have their own views on things, and difference is okay. But one of the things you've always supported me as well is in my journey into becoming, a stepfather and a father, and you understand those things and the challenges around that. And you've had me talk about Matteo endlessly, and just been very patient and tolerant of all of that. So what I want to do is, Matteo, come here. I need to come meet my friend. I wanted to meet Matteo and say hi, because it may be one of the few opportunities we get. Matteo, come here, quick. It's okay. Just come like this. Come put your headphone in. Take your headphones out. Oh, you put your top on. And then I'm going to get him to say hi to you so that you can
Lovely.
quickly. And then we're going to have to finish. He doesn't want you to see him without his top on. So sweet. And then we'll have to finish once he said hello.
Sure.
Come and meet my friend Gary. Come and say hi to Gary. This is Gary here.
Hello.
Hola, Matteo.
Hola.
How are you?
How are you?
Good.
That's good. Yeah.
This is Gary.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is my friend Gary, who is in Australia. Do you know where Australia is?
Yes.
Yeah, this is we're here, and the world is like that, and Australia is here on the bottom of the world. So he's just finished summer and he's going into winter, and we've just finished winter and going into summer. Yeah.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bye, Gary. Thanks.
Lovely to meet you, Matteo.
Thank you.
It's
Lovely.
funny this.
Yeah. The bridge. You like it? You like the bridge? Thank you, Gary. It's a real, genuine, personal pleasure to see you. I'm hopeful that when this stuff ends, that there'll be a possibility of meeting up with you. As I say, IRL. I feel quite emotional actually at the moment. It's sort of. I think you're a very special person.
Oh, you're
very,
a wonderful
very
person
special.
yourself, Noel. And from my time in the industry, there is a handful of people I'd like to keep in touch with and follow, and you're one of those. And Kerry and I love London, and we'll be back there as soon as we're allowed. And
absolutely.
And we'll definitely.
Well, you've always got a home wherever I am, mate. So
and our shout for lunch this time.
Yeah, cool. All right, mate. Well, look, we have to finish there. It's been really, really wonderful to have you on. You just stay with us, Gary. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Sure. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. And as usual, I can't remember who's on next week. Somebody is on. Oh, no, it's Annie and Sarah. So Annie, Love, and Sarah, I can't remember your second name, Sarah, but I know you really well, both from the North American continent. Two amazing people that I'm really looking forward to seeing next week. So there you go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next week, and hope you all have a great week in between. Bye-bye.